In the quaint, unpronounceable village of Zibo-Blaflop, nestled between the Whispering Mountains and the Laughing Sea, a most peculiar event was about to unfold. The sun rose in its usual eccentric fashion, dipping its toes into a pool of molten cheese before reluctantly hoisting itself above the horizon. The townsfolk were bustling about their daily business, weaving in and out of each other like a kaleidoscope of confusion. Among them was Inspector Gloop, a man with an uncanny ability to find trouble wherever he went. His trademark pink umbrella, adorned with tiny, squirming octopuses, bobbed above the crowd, drawing curious stares and unintelligible mumbles. It was on this day that the town's beloved Mayor Poodlefarkle was found dead in his garden, next to a suspiciously large and wilting cucumber plant. The cause of death was as enigmatic as the man himself. He had been turned entirely into a bowl of yogurt. A single teardrop, the size of a small moon, hung precariously from the brim of his top hat. Inspector Gloop, sensing an opportunity to flex his investigative muscles, or lack thereof, quickly gathered the townsfolk in the town square for a most impromptu and unorthodox interrogation. With a wave of his oversized mustache, he began to question the assembled villagers about their relationship with the late Mayor Poodlefarkle. "Was it you, Sneezy the Weasel, who turned our beloved mayor into a bowl of yogurt?" Gloop inquired, a look of deep suspicion etched onto his face. "No, Inspector," squeaked Sneezy, eyes wide with fear. "I was merely watering my flowers." Gloop moved on to the next suspect, a burly man named Grumbleguts who had an unusual fondness for oversized hats and tiny, yappy dogs. "You, Grumbleguts, are under suspicion," Gloop declared, pointing his monocle at the man with unwavering intensity. "I don't know anything about it, Inspector," Grumbleguts replied, trying to suppress a giggle as he scratched behind one of his many ears. The questioning continued in this fashion for several hours, until Inspector Gloop came upon a peculiar woman named Madame Flibbergast. She wore a long, flowing gown made entirely of spaghetti and sported a hat that resembled a giant, floppy mushroom. Her eyes twinkled with madness as she spoke. "I can help you solve this mystery, Inspector," she whispered conspiratorially. "Follow me." And so the inspector followed, his pink umbrella bobbing behind her like an oversized, octopus-laden shadow. They ventured deep into the forest, where the trees seemed to whisper secrets and the ground was covered in a thick layer of custard. "Here is where it all began," Madame Flibbergast announced dramatically, gesturing towards a small clearing. In the center of the clearing lay an ancient book, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and strange drawings. Gloop's eyes widened as he approached the tome, his heart pounding with anticipation. "This is the Book of Yogurt Transformations," Madame Flibbergast explained, her voice trembling with excitement. "It holds the secret to turning any living creature into a bowl of yogurt." Gloop's mind raced as he flipped through the pages, his fingers leaving trails of sticky, yellow residue. The symbols swam before his eyes, their meaning eluding him entirely. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the forest, causing the ground to tremble beneath their feet. Out from the woods burst a massive, bipedal chicken, its feathers glistening with moisture as it screeched and flapped its wings in rage. Gloop and Madame Flibbergast cowered behind the ancient book, their eyes locked onto the terrifying creature. "You have meddled with forces beyond your comprehension," the chicken bellowed, its voice like thunder. "Prepare to meet your doom." With that, the chicken lunged at them, its talons clicking ominously as it closed in for the kill. The forest around them seemed to warp and twist, the trees bending inwards like hungry tentacles. But just as it was about to strike, a blast of bright light exploded from the Book of Yogurt Transformations, enveloping the chicken in a swirling vortex. When the light faded, there stood Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast, unscathed and triumphant. The Book of Yogurt Transformations lay open on the ground before them, its pages now blank and empty. "We have saved Zibo-Blaflop from certain destruction," Gloop declared, smiling broadly beneath his monocle. "But I fear our work is not yet done." And so, with the Book of Yogurt Transformation safely in their possession, Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast continued their absurd journey through this quaint, unpronounceable village, forever seeking to solve the mysteries that lay hidden beneath its surface. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Whispering Mountains and the Laughing Sea as they ventured forth, their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like a pair of bizarre flags. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. In the days that followed, Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast found themselves delving deeper into the strange and enigmatic world of Zibo-Blaflop. They investigated the town's peculiar customs, from the annual cucumber festival where villagers would compete to grow the largest and most wilting cucumbers, to the triannual teapot parade, a bizarre procession of oversized teapots, each adorned with tiny, animated spoons. As they delved deeper into their investigation, the duo began to uncover the town's dark secrets. They discovered that many of the villagers had been turning into yogurt, not just the late Mayor Poodlefarkle. It seemed that someone or something was using the Book of Yogurt transformations for nefarious purposes. One day, while investigating a strange, yellow puddle in the town square, they stumbled upon a hidden underground lair. The walls were lined with shelves upon shelves of yogurt containers, each one brimming with the remains of a once-living villager. In the center of the room stood an imposing figure, cloaked in darkness and wielding a large, metallic spoon. The figure turned to face them, revealing a twisted, malevolent version of Madame Flibbergast. Her spaghetti gown had been replaced with a suit made of solidified yogurt, her eyes now cold and empty pools of darkness. "You have uncovered my plan," she hissed, her voice dripping with malice. "But it is not too late to join me." Inspector Gloop and the real Madame Flibbergast stood their ground, refusing to give in to the twisted doppelganger's threats. A fierce battle ensued, with the pair using all of their wit and absurdity to outmaneuver their foe. In the end, they managed to overcome the yogurt-clad villain, banishing her back to the shadows from whence she came. With the main threat vanquished, Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast set about restoring the village to its former glory. They used the Book of Yogurt transformations to reverse the effects of the curse, turning the villagers back into their human forms. The townsfolk rejoiced at their return, welcoming their saviors as heroes. In the days that followed, life in Zibo-Blaflop returned to normal. The sun rose and set in its eccentric fashion, the whispering mountains and laughing sea standing sentinel over the village. Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast continued their absurd adventures together, always ready to unravel the next strange mystery that lay hidden within this quaint, unpronounceable village. And as they ventured forth, their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like a pair of bizarre flags, one could not help but wonder what other secrets Zibo-Blaflop held, waiting to be discovered by the intrepid duo. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, the peace and tranquility of Zibo-Blaflop was restored. The villagers went about their days with renewed vigor, tending to their oversized cucumbers and participating in the annual teapot parade with gusto. But despite the apparent calm, Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast knew that there were still mysteries to be uncovered. One fateful day, while investigating a strange odor wafting from the laughing sea, they discovered a peculiar cave hidden beneath the sandy shore. The cave was filled with glowing crystals and oddly shaped stalactites, casting an eerie light over the chamber. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which lay a strange, metallic object. As Gloop approached, he felt a sudden chill run down his spine. He could sense that this was no ordinary find. As they examined the object, it began to emit a soft humming noise, growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. The ground beneath them trembled, and the cave walls seemed to close in around them. Suddenly, a massive, mechanical beast emerged from the shadows, its shiny, metallic form towering over the duo. Its eyes glowed red, and it emitted a series of beeps and whirs that sent shivers down their spines. Gloop and Flibbergast stood their ground, refusing to let fear take hold. They knew they had to outwit this new adversary, just as they had done with the yogurt-clad villain. The beast began to advance on them, its mechanical limbs clicking ominously as it closed in. But just as it was about to strike, Gloop sprung into action. Using his pink umbrella as a makeshift boomerang, he managed to knock the creature off balance. Flibbergast seized the opportunity and lunged at the beast with her spaghetti gown, wrapping herself around its mechanical form like a constricting serpent. The two struggled for control, their absurd costumes and improbable weapons clashing in a whirlwind of color and sound. In the end, they managed to disable the creature, its metallic form crumpling to the ground with a loud, hollow clang. As they caught their breath, Gloop looked at Flibbergast, his eyes wide with wonder. "We have done it again," he exclaimed, grinning beneath his monocle. But as they turned to leave the cave, they heard a voice echoing from the darkness. "You have only just begun, Inspector Gloop and Madame Flibbergast," the voice cackled. "There are still mysteries to be uncovered in this strange and wondrous village." With that, the two heroes set off once more, their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like banners of determination. The adventure was far from over, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead in the quaint, unpronounceable village of Ziboblaflop. And as they ventured forth, one could not help but wonder what other secrets this peculiar place held, waiting to be discovered by the intrepid duo. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. As Gloop and Flibbergast continued their journey, they stumbled upon a mysterious laboratory nestled within the dense forest. The air was thick with the scent of chemicals and the hum of strange machinery filled the air. Intrigued, they ventured inside, only to find themselves face to face with a mad scientist, Dr. Fiddlesticks, who greeted them with an evil laugh. "Ah, you finally found me," he cackled, rubbing his hands together manically. "I've been experimenting on the villagers of Ziboblaflop, turning them into all sorts of strange and wondrous creatures. And now, I plan to turn you two into my next masterpieces." Gloop and Flibbergast quickly sprang into action, using their wit and absurdity to outmaneuver the mad scientist. They dodged his experiments and battled his robotic minions, each encounter more bizarre than the last. In one instance, they found themselves trapped in a room filled with giant marshmallows, while in another, they were chased by a pack of mutant cats that could only be stopped by tickling them under their armpits. In the end, they managed to outsmart Dr. Fiddlesticks and save the villagers from his twisted experiments. As the lab crumbled around them, Gloop turned to Flibbergast with a grin. "We've done it again," he exclaimed. But just as they were about to leave, they heard a voice echoing through the rubble. "You may have saved Ziboblaflop this time," the voice sneered. "But there are still mysteries to be uncovered." With that, Gloop and Flibbergast set off once more, their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like banners of determination. The adventure was far from over, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead in the quaint, unpronounceable village of Ziboblaflop. And as they ventured forth, one could not help but wonder what other secrets this peculiar place held, waiting to be discovered by the intrepid duo. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. As Gloop and Flibbergast continued their journey through Ziboblaflop, they stumbled upon a peculiar village fair taking place on the town square. Booths offering oddities such as giant rubber ducks filled with jelly beans, talking broomstick races, and a fortune teller who claimed to be able to predict one's future based on the shape of their toes were set up around the square. Amidst the chaos and spectacle, Gloop and Flibbergast noticed something peculiar. A group of villagers gathered around a makeshift stage where a performance was taking place. Intrigued, they made their way through the crowd to get a closer look. Upon reaching the front, they were greeted by the sight of a large, hairy creature with 3 heads, juggling flaming bowling pins while wearing nothing but a loincloth made of rainbow-colored spaghetti. The crowd was in hysterics, cheering and throwing money at the performer. As Gloop and Flibbergast watched, they couldn't help but feel that something was amiss. "This doesn't seem right," Gloop murmured to Flibbergast as they exchanged puzzled glances. "There's a mystery here that needs uncovering." Without hesitation, the two detectives set out to investigate the strange performance. They soon discovered that the performer was none other than the missing mayor of Ziboblaflop, who had been presumed dead months ago after disappearing during a storm on the Laughing Sea. Gloop and Flibbergast quickly deduced that the mayor must have been kidnapped by a mysterious group of villagers who were using him as a pawn in some sort of elaborate scheme. As they delved deeper into their investigation, they discovered that the group was led by none other than the village's blacksmith, who had been harboring a deep-seated grudge against the mayor for years. The blacksmith had convinced the rest of the villagers that the mayor was actually an evil sorcerer who had placed a curse on Ziboblaflop, causing all manner of strange and wondrous phenomena to occur. With this knowledge in hand, Gloop and Flibbergast set out to expose the blacksmith's scheme and clear the mayor's name. They managed to gather evidence that proved beyond a doubt that the blacksmith had been responsible for kidnapping the mayor and staging his death. With this evidence, they confronted the blacksmith in her workshop, which was filled with all manner of strange potions and alchemical instruments. The blacksmith refused to admit guilt, instead insisting that she was merely trying to protect the villagers from the curse that the mayor had placed upon them. Gloop and Flibbergast tried to reason with her, but she became increasingly agitated and aggressive. In a last-ditch effort to stop her, they managed to knock over one of her alchemical instruments, which caused a huge explosion. In the chaos that followed, the blacksmith was arrested by the remaining villagers who were now grateful for Gloop and Flibbergast's efforts to uncover the truth. The mayor was freed and welcomed back as a hero, while the villagers celebrated their newfound freedom from the curse that had plagued them for so long. As the sun set over Ziboblaflop, Gloop and Flibbergast stood together on the town square, watching as the villagers danced and laughed in celebration. "We've done it again," Gloop exclaimed with a grin. "But I have a feeling that there are still mysteries to be uncovered in this peculiar place." And so, with their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like banners of determination, they set off once more into the heart of Ziboblaflop, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The adventure was far from over, but the duo were ready for whatever secrets this peculiar village held, waiting to be discovered. And as they ventured forth, one could not help but wonder what other surprises and absurdities awaited them in the quaint, unpronounceable village of Ziboblaflop. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. In the days that followed, Gloop and Flibbergast became local heroes among the villagers of Ziboblaflop. They were constantly approached by grateful townsfolk who expressed their gratitude for uncovering the truth about the blacksmith scheme and freeing the mayor from captivity. As they walked through the streets, the duo could not help but feel a sense of pride in their accomplishments. But it wasn't long before Gloop began to notice something strange. The villagers seemed to be acting different. They were quieter than usual, and there was an air of unease that hung over the town square. "Something doesn't feel right," Gloop murmured to Flibbergast one day as they sat on a park bench, enjoying a bowl of spaghetti ice cream. Flibbergast nodded in agreement. "I've been feeling it too," he said. "But I can't quite put my finger on what it is." The two detectives decided to investigate the matter further, and soon discovered that a new secret was lurking beneath the surface of Ziboblaflop. It seemed that the village was being plagued by a series of strange and inexplicable events, missing items, mysterious footprints appearing out of nowhere, and whispers heard in the dead of night. Gloop and Flibbergast quickly realized that they were dealing with something far more sinister than anything they had encountered before. As they delved deeper into their investigation, they discovered that a group of villagers was behind the strange occurrences, a cult led by none other than the village's librarian, who claimed to have access to ancient and forbidden knowledge. The cult was using this knowledge to carry out a series of bizarre rituals designed to awaken an ancient evil that had been sleeping beneath Ziboblaflop for centuries. If they succeeded in their mission, the entire village would be plunged into chaos and destruction. Gloop and Flibbergast knew that they had to act fast if they were to stop the cult from achieving its goal. They rallied the villagers and together, they managed to thwart the cult's final ritual just as the ancient evil was about to be awakened. As the sun rose over Ziboblaflop, the village breathed a collective sigh of relief. The strange events had stopped, and the villagers were once again safe in their homes. Gloop and Flibbergast stood on the town square, feeling a sense of accomplishment that they had never felt before. But even as they celebrated their victory, they knew that there would always be more mysteries to uncover in the peculiar village of Ziboblaflop. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there to face them head-on, armed with nothing but their pink umbrella, spaghetti gown, and an insatiable curiosity for the unknown. The adventure was far from over, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead in this quaint, unpronounceable village that seemed to be filled with more secrets than anyone could ever imagine. And as they ventured forth, one could not help but wonder what other absurdities and wonders awaited them in the strange, enigmatic world of Ziboblaflop. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, Gloop and Flibbergast continued to unravel the mysteries of Ziboblaflop. They discovered a hidden underground network of tunnels that crisscrossed beneath the village, filled with all manner of strange and wondrous artifacts. These tunnels had once been the domain of an ancient civilization that had lived in Ziboblaflop millennia ago, and it seemed that they had left behind many secrets waiting to be discovered. One day, while exploring the depths of one of these tunnels, Gloop and Flibbergast stumbled upon a strange chamber filled with glowing crystals. As they approached, they noticed a peculiar inscription etched into the walls of the chamber: "The key to unlocking all secrets lies within." Intrigued by this cryptic message, the detectives decided to investigate further. They soon found themselves standing before a massive crystal that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Gloop reached out and touched the crystal, feeling a strange energy surge through his body. Suddenly, he was struck with a vision of the ancient civilization that had once lived in Zibo-Blaflop. He saw images of great cities filled with towering spires and bustling markets, and of powerful sorcerers who could manipulate the very fabric of reality. But as quickly as the vision appeared, it vanished, leaving Gloop and Flibberghast stunned and bewildered. As they left the chamber, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had uncovered a secret that was far more powerful than anything they could have imagined. They knew that they would have to be careful not to let this newfound knowledge fall into the wrong hands, for it had the power to change the very fabric of reality in Zibo-Blaflop. And so, with their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like banners of determination, they set off once more into the depths of the underground tunnels, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the days that followed, Gloop and Flibberghast continued to explore the tunnels, seeking out any clues as to the ancient civilization's secrets. They soon discovered a hidden library filled with ancient scrolls and tomes, each one containing vast amounts of knowledge about the lost civilization. The detectives spent hours poring over these texts, trying to make sense of the arcane symbols and strange incantations that filled their pages. One day, as they were searching through a particularly dusty scroll, Gloop stumbled upon a passage that caught his eye. The key to unlocking all secrets lies within the heart of the mountain. The detectives exchanged puzzled glances. Could it be possible that the answer to their quest lay hidden deep within the heart of the mountain that loomed over Zibo-Blaflop? With renewed determination, they set out to find the entrance to the mountain. After hours of searching, they finally found what they were looking for: a small cave nestled in the base of the mountain, hidden from view by a thick curtain of ivy. They stepped inside and found themselves standing before a massive door made of solid stone. As Gloop reached out to touch the door, he felt another surge of energy flow through his body. The door swung open, revealing a vast chamber filled with glowing crystals. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, upon which lay a small crystal that pulsed with an inner light. Gloop and Flibberghast approached cautiously, feeling a sense of awe wash over them as they gazed upon this mysterious artifact. As they touched the crystal, they were once again struck with a vision of the ancient civilization that had once lived in Zibo-Blaflop. This time, however, the vision was different. They saw images of great battles fought between rival factions, of powerful sorcerers who wielded immense power, and of a final cataclysmic event that wiped the civilization from existence. But as quickly as the vision appeared, it vanished, leaving Gloop and Flibberghast standing in the chamber, their minds racing with the implications of what they had just witnessed. They knew that they had stumbled upon a great secret, one that could change the course of history in Zibo-Blaflop. And as they left the mountain, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were now custodians of a power far greater than anything they had ever known. As they ventured forth from the mountain, Gloop and Flibberghast felt a new sense of purpose wash over them. They knew that they had a responsibility to use this newfound knowledge for the betterment of Zibo-Blaflop, and to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. And so, with their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like banners of determination, they set off once more into the heart of Zibo-Blaflop, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the days that followed, Gloop and Flibberghast worked tirelessly to uncover the secrets of Zibo-Blaflop, using their newfound knowledge to help the villagers overcome their problems. They helped to repair the infrastructure of the village, restored the ancient libraries, and even managed to track down a group of thieves who had been plaguing the village for years. As they went about their work, Gloop and Flibberghast couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they were accomplishing. They knew that they were making a real difference in the lives of the people of Zibo-Blaflop, and that their efforts would be remembered for generations to come. And as they stood on the town square, watching as the villagers danced and laughed in celebration, they couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. But even as they celebrated their victories, Gloop and Flibberghast knew that there were still mysteries to be uncovered in this peculiar place. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, the duo would be there to face them head-on, armed with nothing but their pink umbrella, spaghetti gown, and an insatiable curiosity for the unknown. The adventure was far from over, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead in the strange, enigmatic world of Zibo-Blaflop. And as they ventured forth into the unknown, one could not help but wonder what other absurdities and wonders awaited them in this quaint, unpronounceable village that seemed to be filled with more secrets than anyone could ever imagine. The end was nowhere in sight, but the adventure was just beginning. As Gloop and Flibbergast continued their exploration of Ziboblaflop, they stumbled upon a peculiar village square where the villagers were engaged in an unusual game of tag. However, instead of chasing each other, the villagers were running after a large, inflatable rubber duck that bounced unpredictably through the streets. Intrigued by this spectacle, Gloop and Flibbergast decided to join in on the fun. As they chased after the duck, they found themselves getting more and more entangled in a strange web of string that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The string wrapped itself around them tighter and tighter, pulling them closer and closer together until they were barely able to move. Just as they began to panic, a group of villagers approached them with bemused expressions on their faces. "Ah, you found our famous game of duck tangle," one of the villagers explained. "It's an ancient tradition that has been passed down through generations. It's said that anyone who can untangle themselves from the web and catch the duck wins a lifetime supply of jelly beans." Gloop and Flibbergast were skeptical but intrigued by this challenge, and they set to work trying to untangle themselves from the web. Hours passed as they struggled against the string, their efforts becoming more desperate with each passing moment. As the sun began to set over Ziboblaflop, Gloop suddenly felt a surge of energy course through his body, and he managed to free himself from the web. He turned to Flibbergast, who was still struggling against the string, and shouted, "Quick! The duck is coming your way!" Flibbergast looked up in time to see the inflatable rubber duck hurtling towards him at breakneck speed. Without a moment's hesitation, he lunged forward and snatched the duck in his arms. The villagers erupted into cheers as Flibbergast emerged victorious from the game of duck tangle. As he stood there, clutching the rubber duck to his chest, Flibbergast couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. He had managed to untangle himself and win the game, but more importantly, he had proven that he could adapt to the peculiarities of Ziboblaflop. With newfound determination, he turned to Gloop and said, "Let's keep exploring, old friend. There are still mysteries waiting for us in this strange world." And so, with their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown fluttering behind them like banners of determination, they set off once more into the heart of Ziboblaflop, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The adventure was far from over, but as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there, armed with their wit, curiosity, and an insatiable desire to uncover the truth. The end may have been nowhere in sight, but for now, they had a lifetime supply of jelly beans to enjoy while they continued their quest for knowledge in the strange, enigmatic world of Ziboblaflop. As Gloop and Flibbergast trotted along the cobblestone streets of Ziboblaflop, they happened upon a peculiar sight. A group of villagers gathered around a large pot bubbling over a fire, stirring it with long spoons. Intrigued, the duo approached the group and inquired about the potion they were preparing. The villagers explained that they were concocting a powerful elixir, said to grant the drinker the ability to understand the language of animals. Gloop and Flibbergast, being the adventurous sorts that they are, decided to give it a try. After downing the potion, they immediately began to hear the soft whispers of nearby creatures, the rustling leaves of the trees, the chirping of birds, even the distant hum of bees buzzing in a hive. Overwhelmed by this newfound ability, Gloop and Flibbergast set off to explore the wilds of Ziboblaflop in search of clues about its mysterious past. They ventured deep into the forest, following the sound of a babbling brook. As they approached, they spotted a group of squirrels playing near the water's edge. Gloop and Flibbergast knelt down to observe them more closely, but as they did so, one of the squirrels darted forward and snatched something from their pocket. "What was that?" Gloop exclaimed, startled by the theft. The squirrel chittered at him, explaining that it was a nut that had fallen from their backpack earlier. Embarrassed, Gloop apologized and offered the squirrel another nut in exchange for the one they had taken. As the days passed, Gloop and Flibbergast learned more and more about the language of animals. They discovered secret passages hidden within the forest that led to ancient ruins, unearthed artifacts that told the story of long-forgotten battles, and even communed with a wise old owl who shared his knowledge of the stars and the constellations that guided the early inhabitants of Ziboblaflop. But as they delved deeper into the mysteries of this strange land, Gloop and Flibbergast began to notice something odd. The animals seemed to be growing more secretive, their whispers becoming harder to hear. They also started to feel a sense of unease, as if something sinister lurked just beyond the edge of their understanding. One night, as they sat by a campfire deep in the forest, they heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. Gloop reached for his pink umbrella, ready to defend himself against whatever creature might emerge. But what appeared was not a beast of the forest, but a group of villagers armed with torches and angry faces. "You have trespassed on sacred grounds," one of the villagers snarled at them. "The knowledge you seek is forbidden to outsiders. Prepare to be banished from Zibo-Blaflop forever." Gloop and Flibbergast tried to explain that they had only been trying to learn about the history of this place, but the villagers would not listen. They were dragged before a council of elders, who sentenced them to be exiled from Zibo-Blaflop for all eternity. As they were led away, Gloop and Flibbergast could feel the weight of their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown dragging them down. They had failed in their quest to uncover the secrets of Zibo-Blaflop, and they would never be able to return to the strange, enigmatic village that had captured their hearts. But even as they were forced from the land, Gloop turned to Flibbergast with a determined look in his eyes. "We may have lost this battle," he said, "but we will not lose the war. We will continue to seek out the truth, no matter where it takes us. And one day, we will return to Zibo-Blaflop and uncover its secrets once and for all." And with that vow, Gloop and Flibbergast set off into the night, their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown billowing behind them like banners of defiance. The end may have been nowhere in sight, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest for knowledge. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there, armed with their wit, curiosity, and unwavering determination. For they were explorers, adventurers, seekers of truth, and the adventure was far from over. As Gloop and Flibbergast trudged through the unknown territory, a sudden gust of wind blew through the air, causing their umbrella to unfurl and their gowns to billow out like sails. In the distance, they could see a massive, ominous structure looming over the horizon. It appeared to be a castle of some sort, but one made entirely of jelly beans. Gloop's eyes widened in astonishment as he gazed at the sight before him. "Flibbergast," he stammered, "we have found it. The Castle of Jiggly Delights." With renewed energy, they quickened their pace, determined to solve the mystery of this curious castle and uncover its secrets. As they approached, they noticed a large crowd gathered outside the castle gates. The villagers, who were now dressed in jellybean costumes, seemed to be celebrating something. Gloop and Flibbergast pushed their way through the throng, trying to get a closer look at what was going on. Suddenly, they were pulled aside by a group of guards wearing armor made of candy canes. "You cannot enter the castle," one of them shouted at them, brandishing a lollipop sword. "The Castle of Jiggly Delights is forbidden to outsiders. Prepare to be banished from this realm forever." Undeterred, Gloop and Flibbergast tried to reason with the guards, explaining that they were merely seeking knowledge and had no intention of causing harm. But the guards would not listen, and they were forced to flee back into the wilderness. As they looked back at the castle, they could see the gates closing behind them, sealing them out for good. But the adventure was far from over. Gloop and Flibbergast vowed to continue their quest, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. They would not rest until they had uncovered every secret hidden within the strange and wondrous world of Zibo-Blaflop. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there, armed with their wit, curiosity, and unwavering determination. For they were explorers, adventurers, seekers of truth, and the adventure was far from over. As Gloop and Flibbergast ventured deeper into the unknown territories, they stumbled upon a peculiar scene, a field filled with dancing chickens, their feathers glowing in hues of neon pink and green. The duo stood, bewildered, as the chickens twirled and swayed to an unheard melody. Intrigued, Gloop approached one of the chickens and asked, "Excuse me, good chicken, may I know why you are dancing so merrily?" The chicken tilted its head and replied, "Oh, adventurer. We are celebrating the discovery of the legendary Egg of Truth. It is said that whoever cracks open this egg shall be granted the ultimate wisdom." Gloop's eyes widened in excitement. "Lead us to this marvelous egg," he exclaimed, grasping his pink umbrella tightly. The chicken squawked and led them through a maze of tall grass and strange, luminescent mushrooms. As they neared the egg, they could feel a powerful energy emanating from it. Gloop reached out to touch it, but just as he did so, a giant hand emerged from the ground and snatched the Egg of Truth away. "Thieves! You shall never lay your hands on the Egg of Truth," roared a booming voice. Gloop and Flibbergast turned to see a massive, anthropomorphic carrot standing before them, his eyes glowing with anger. Gloop gulped nervously, but Flibbergast stepped forward bravely. "Sir Carrot, we mean you no harm. We only seek the knowledge hidden within the egg of truth." Carrot considered this for a moment before replying, "Very well, I will test your worthiness. Answer me this riddle, what is it that you cannot hold in one hand, but can hold in two?" Gloop and Flibbergast pondered the question for a moment before exchanging knowing glances. Gloop held up his pink umbrella and said, "This." Carrot nodded thoughtfully, then returned the egg of truth to them. "You have proven yourself worthy, but be warned, the knowledge contained within this egg is not to be taken lightly. Use it wisely." With the egg in hand, Gloop and Flibbergast continued their adventure, ready to face whatever mysteries lay ahead. But as they looked into each other's eyes, they knew that their bond had grown stronger than ever before. They were not just explorers or adventurers, they were friends, partners in a quest for truth, and together, they would conquer the strange and wondrous world of Zibo-Blaflop. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there, armed with their wit, curiosity, and unwavering determination. For they were explorers, adventurers, seekers of truth, and the adventure was far from over. As they walked through the forest, the duo could feel the weight of the egg of truth growing heavier in Gloop's pocket. Suddenly, a strange, otherworldly music began to play, drawing them deeper into the woods. They followed the melody until they came upon a clearing, where they found themselves face to face with a group of beings that defied description. Some resembled humans, while others were clearly not. Some had multiple eyes and limbs, while others appeared to be made entirely of smoke or water. Gloop and Flibbergast stood, frozen in fear as the strange creatures approached them. One of them, a being with 3 heads and 8 arms, spoke in a language that sounded like gargling marbles. "Greetings, travelers," it said. "We are the Council of the Cosmos, and we have been expecting you." Gloop swallowed hard, trying to find his voice. "Who are you?" he stammered. "We are the Guardians of the Universe," replied another being, a tall, ethereal figure with glowing skin. "You possess the egg of truth, and we have come to test your worthiness." Gloop gulped nervously as the Council of the Cosmos surrounded him and Flibbergast. "What must we do?" he asked, his voice shaking. The being with 3 heads grinned menacingly. "Answer this riddle, what is it that you cannot see, but can feel its presence?" Gloop's mind raced as he tried to solve the riddle. He looked to Flibbergast for help, but his friend only shrugged helplessly. Suddenly, a revelation struck Gloop like a bolt of lightning. "Darkness!" he exclaimed triumphantly. The Council of the Cosmos considered this for a moment before nodding slowly. "You have proven yourself worthy," said the ethereal being. "But be warned, the knowledge you seek will change you in ways you cannot imagine." With that, the council vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving Gloop and Flibbergast alone in the clearing. As they stared at each other, a sense of awe washed over them. They had uncovered another piece of the puzzle, another clue to the mysteries of Zibo-Blaflop. But as they turned to leave, they noticed something unusual about their surroundings. The forest seemed to be shrinking, the trees and bushes growing smaller and smaller until they were but tiny specks in the distance. Gloop and Flibbergast looked at each other in shock. "What's happening?" Gloop stammered. Flibbergast shook his head, just as confused. "I don't know," he said. "But we must keep going. We have come too far to turn back now." And so, they pressed on, their pink umbrella and spaghetti gown billowing behind them like banners of determination. The adventure was far from over, and the mysteries of Zibo-Blaflop awaited them at every turn. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there, armed with their wit, curiosity, and unwavering determination. For they were explorers, adventurers, seekers of truth, and the adventure was far from over. As Gloop and Flibbergast continued their journey through the shrinking forest, they found themselves entering a realm of pure absurdity. The trees seemed to be made of cotton candy, the ground was covered in jelly beans, and the air was filled with balloons that drifted lazily overhead. The duo marveled at their surroundings, taking in every detail as they walked. Suddenly, they heard a faint melody coming from a nearby hill. Intrigued, Gloop and Flibbergast climbed the hill and discovered a group of cats playing harps and flutes. One cat, a particularly large one with a shiny purple coat, approached them. "Ah, travelers! You've arrived just in time," it purred. "We are hosting a grand concert to celebrate the anniversary of the invention of music itself." Gloop and Flibbergast looked at each other, puzzled but intrigued. "May we stay and watch?" asked Flibbergast politely. The cat nodded graciously. "Of course. You may even join us if you wish." As the concert began, Gloop and Flibbergast marveled at the strange and wondrous music being played by the cats. Some played with their paws, others with their tails, and still others with their teeth. The music was unlike anything they had ever heard before, a symphony of sounds that seemed to resonate deep within their souls. Gloop found himself tapping his foot unconsciously, while Flibbergast hummed along quietly. When the concert ended, the cats applauded enthusiastically, and one even bowed low in gratitude. "Thank you for joining us today," it said. "You are welcome to return anytime you wish." With a heartfelt farewell, Gloop and Flibbergast left the hill and continued their journey through the shrinking forest. As they walked, they noticed that the forest was now completely gone, replaced by an endless expanse of grassland. In the distance, they could see mountains rising majestically into the sky. "What's happening?" Gloop asked again, his voice filled with wonder. Flibbergast only shrugged, just as confused as his friend. "I don't know," he said. "But we must keep going. We have come too far to turn back now." As they approached the mountains, they saw a small village nestled in their foothills. The houses were made of candy canes and gingerbread, and smoke rose gently from chimneys. Gloop and Flibbergast entered the village and were greeted warmly by the residents. They learned that this was the land of sweets, a place where all manner of sugary delights could be found. Gloop and Flibbergast spent several days exploring the land of sweets, tasting the many treats on offer and marveling at the beauty of their surroundings. But as they wandered through the village one day, they saw something that made their hearts race, a sign reading, "Egg of Truth." The duo followed the sign, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As they approached the source of the sign, they saw a small cottage with a large egg resting on a pedestal in front of it. Gloop reached out to touch the egg, but before he could, the door to the cottage creaked open and an old woman appeared. "Ah, travelers," she said. "You've come for the Egg of Truth." Gloop nodded eagerly. The old woman smiled. "I have a riddle for you, as is tradition," she said. Gloop gulped nervously, but Flibbergast stepped forward bravely. "We are ready," he said. The old woman thought for a moment before speaking. "Answer this riddle. What is it that can run but never walks, has a voice but cannot speak, and has 9 lives?" Gloop's mind raced as he tried to solve the riddle. He looked to Flibbergast for help, but his friend only shook his head helplessly. Suddenly, an answer came to Gloop like a bolt of lightning. "A cat," he exclaimed triumphantly. The old woman considered this for a moment before nodding slowly. "You have proven yourself worthy," she said. "Take the Egg of Truth and use it wisely." With the egg in hand, Gloop and Flibbergast left the land of sweets, ready to face whatever mysteries lay ahead. As they walked through the grassland, they could feel a powerful energy emanating from the egg. They knew that their adventure was far from over, and that there were still many secrets hidden within the strange and wondrous world of Ziboblaflop waiting to be uncovered. And as long as there were mysteries to solve, Gloop and Flibbergast would be there, armed with their wit, curiosity, and unwavering determination. For they were explorers, adventurers, seekers of truth, and the adventure was far from over. As they continued their journey across the endless grassland, Gloop and Flibbergast began to notice that the sky above them was changing colors rapidly, shifting from a deep purple to bright orange and back again in an instant. The ground beneath their feet also seemed to be moving, undulating like a giant wave about to break. Suddenly, they found themselves standing on the shore of a vast ocean, its waters shimmering with iridescent hues. Intrigued, Gloop and Flibbergast ventured onto the water, walking as if it were solid ground. As they made their way across the ocean, they saw a magnificent city rise up from the horizon. The buildings were made of clouds and rainbows, and bridges connected them to each other like a series of vibrant arches. Gloop and Flibbergast marveled at the sight before them, their eyes wide with wonder. Upon entering the city, they found themselves surrounded by people of all shapes and sizes, some humanoid, others not so much. they approached a strange-looking creature with a long, snaking body and multiple heads. "Greetings, travelers," it hissed. "Welcome to the City of Dreams. Here, anything is possible." Gloop and Flibbergast looked at each other in amazement. "Is this the City of Dreams?" asked Gloop. The creature nodded. "Indeed it is. And what do you seek within its walls?" Gloop hesitated before answering. He wanted to say that they sought knowledge, answers to the mysteries of Zibo-Blaflop. But he realized that such a quest would be futile here, in a place where reality was but a fleeting illusion. Instead, he said, "We seek adventure, excitement, and the unknown." The creature's multiple eyes sparkled with delight. "Then you have come to the right place," it hissed. "Follow me, and I shall show you the wonders of the City of Dreams." And so, Gloop and Flibbergast followed the creature through the city, their senses overwhelmed by the sights, sounds, and smells that surrounded them. They saw people flying through the air on broomsticks, others walking on stilts that reached up to the clouds. They heard laughter and music everywhere they went, and the smell of exotic spices wafted through the streets. The city seemed to be alive with energy and magic. One day, as Gloop and Flibbergast wandered the streets, they came across a peculiar shop selling strange, otherworldly objects. Intrigued, they stepped inside and found themselves in a room filled with all manner of curiosities. There were bottles containing swirling vortexes, crystal balls that emitted soft lights, and trinkets made of what seemed to be pure energy. At the back of the shop, Gloop noticed an old woman sitting behind a counter. She looked up as they entered and smiled warmly. "Ah, travelers," she said. "Welcome to my humble shop. I have many wonders within these walls, but one in particular may interest you." She gestured to a small, ornate box resting on the counter. Gloop stepped forward and picked up the box, his eyes wide with curiosity. He opened it to reveal a single feather, its tip glowing softly with an inner light. "This is a dream feather," said the old woman. "It allows you to enter another's dreams and explore their deepest thoughts and fears." Gloop's mind raced as he considered the implications of such a powerful object. He looked to Flibbergast, who nodded eagerly. "We will buy it," Gloop said. The old woman smiled and took out a small pouch, exchanging the feather for some glittering coins. "Be careful with it," she warned. "Dreams can be fragile things, easily shattered by those who enter them uninvited." With the dream feather in hand, Gloop and Flibbergast left the City of Dreams, eager to test out their newfound power. As they flew through the sky, they wondered where they would go first. Suddenly, they noticed a figure below them, sleeping soundly on a cloud. Intrigued, they descended gently and landed next to the figure. As they watched, the figure's dreams began to unfold before their eyes. They saw a world of dark forests, towering castles, and shadowy figures lurking in the corners. Gloop and Flibbergast realized that they were witnessing the dreams of a troubled soul, one filled with fear and darkness. They watched for hours, trying to understand what they were seeing and why this person was so tormented. Eventually, they made their way back to the sleeping figure, ready to leave the dream world behind. But as they stepped away, something unexpected happened. The dream feather began to glow brightly in Gloop's hand, its light piercing the darkness around them. Gloop looked at Flibbergast in shock, his heart racing with fear. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew that they were somehow still inside the dream world. And as they stood there, helplessly surrounded by shadows and darkness, they realized that their adventure had only just begun. The mysteries of Zibo-Blaflop were deeper than they could have ever imagined, and the journey ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. But Gloop and Flibbergast were not daunted. They were explorers, adventurers, seekers of truth, and they were ready to face whatever lay before them. For they knew that as long as there were mysteries to solve, they would never stop exploring, never stop seeking, and never stop dreaming. In the realm of the enigmatic Zibo-Blaflop, where the logic of the universe was a whimsical dance between absurdity and reason, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves ensnared in an ever-evolving dreamscape. The glowing dream feather pulsed in Gloop's hand, casting surreal shadows on their surroundings as they ventured deeper into the troubled soul's subconscious. The landscape around them morphed and twisted like a liquid mirror, reflecting the darkest corners of the dreamer's mind. They traversed treacherous landscapes, where the ground crumbled beneath their feet or the sky threatened to swallow them whole. They encountered fantastical creatures born from the depths of nightmare, grotesque beasts with elongated limbs and gaping maws that seemed to stretch on for miles. Gloop and Flibbergast pressed on, their determination unwavering in the face of overwhelming odds. They knew they had stumbled upon something profoundly important, a secret hidden deep within the recesses of this tortured dreamer's psyche. And with each new challenge they faced, their resolve only grew stronger. One day, as they wandered through an endless desert of shimmering sands, Gloop and Flibbergast stumbled upon a small, nondescript hut. It stood alone in the desolation, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Intrigued, they approached the hut and found themselves greeted by a familiar face, the old woman from the City of Dreams. "Ah, travelers," she cried, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "You have come far in your quest for truth. I am here to guide you further." Gloop and Flibbergast looked at each other, their hearts pounding with excitement. They had found an ally in the enigmatic old woman, someone who understood the mysteries of Ziboblaflop as they did. With her by their side, they journeyed deeper into the dreamer's mind, facing challenges that tested their wit and courage at every turn. They battled nightmarish creatures, solved riddles that defied logic, and navigated labyrinthine landscapes that seemed to stretch on forever. And with each challenge they overcame, they grew closer to the heart of the dreamer soul. Finally, they stood before a towering castle, its walls adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to tell the story of the dreamer's life. They knew they had reached their destination, the final bastion of this troubled soul's deepest fears and desires. And as they prepared to confront whatever lay beyond those ancient stone walls, they realized that their adventure had become something far greater than they could have ever imagined. For Gloop and Flibbergast were no longer just explorers, adventurers, or seekers of truth, they were now the architects of dreams, the weavers of reality, and the guardians of hope in a world where absurdity reigned supreme. And as they stepped into the castle, armed with their wit, their courage, and their unwavering determination, they knew that they would never stop exploring, never stop seeking, and never stop dreaming. For they had found the true meaning of adventure within the strange and wondrous world of Ziboblaflop, a world where the impossible was possible, and where the mysteries of the universe could be unlocked by those with the courage to embrace the absurd. As Gloop and Flibbergast ventured deeper into the castle, they found themselves in a grand ballroom filled with ghostly figures dancing to an ethereal melody. The room was vast and ornate, with gilded mirrors reflecting distorted images of themselves. They saw reflections of their former selves, their faces twisted in terror as they faced the unknown. Gloop turned to Flibbergast, his eyes wide with fear. "We must find a way out," he whispered urgently. But Flibbergast simply smiled, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. "We are not lost, my friend," he said. "We are merely exploring the depths of our own psyches." They continued to wander through the castle, encountering strange and bizarre creatures that seemed to embody their deepest fears and insecurities. They saw a grotesque beast with the face of a loved one they had lost, its eyes pleading for help as it howled in pain. They saw a nightmarish figure that represented their own self-doubt, whispering cruel words into their ears and filling them with fear. But Gloop and Flibbergast refused to be daunted. They pressed on, determined to confront their fears and find the truth at the heart of this dreamer soul. And as they journeyed deeper into the castle, they began to understand that the mysteries of Ziboblaflop were not just a reflection of the dreamer's mind, but a reflection of all minds. They saw glimpses of other dream worlds, each one more bizarre and surreal than the last. They saw a world where gravity defied all logic, where objects floated and fell at random. They saw a world where time flowed backward, where moments stretched into eternity. And as they witnessed these strange and wondrous sights, they realized that Ziboblaflop was not just a dreamscape, but a window into the infinite possibilities of the universe. It was a place where the impossible became possible, where reality was bendable and malleable. As Gloop and Flibbergast stood in the heart of the castle, they knew that their journey had only just begun. They had glimpsed the true nature of the universe, the mysteries that lay hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. And as they looked into each other's eyes, they knew that they would never stop exploring, never stop seeking, and never stop dreaming. For they had found a new purpose in Ziboblaflop, a mission to uncover the secrets of the universe and bring light to the darkest corners of existence. They were no longer just explorers or adventurers, they were now the guardians of hope, the seekers of truth, and the architects of reality in a world where anything was possible. And as they stepped out of the castle, armed with their newfound knowledge and determination, they knew that they would never forget the lessons they had learned within the strange and wondrous realm of Zibo-Blaflop. They would carry those lessons with them for the rest of their days, using them to navigate the complexities of life and find meaning in a world that often seemed absurd and nonsensical. And as they flew through the skies once more, they realized that their adventure had truly been an extraordinary one, a journey into the heart of the universe and the depths of the human mind. They knew that they would never stop exploring, never stop seeking, and never stop dreaming. For in Zibo-Blaflop, they had found the true meaning of adventure and the infinite possibilities that lay hidden within the realm of the absurd. As Gloop and Flibbergast soared through the skies, they came across a strange and peculiar village nestled in the clouds. The buildings were made of twisted metal and glass, shimmering in the ever-changing hues of the sky. The inhabitants were bizarre creatures with multiple limbs and eyes that seemed to be everywhere at once. They greeted Gloop and Flibbergast with a cacophony of voices, each one echoing the same nonsensical phrases, "Welcome to the village of Zibberty-Floo. Here in our town, we celebrate the absurd and revel in the strange." Gloop and Flibbergast were intrigued by this place. They had never encountered anything quite like it before. As they explored the village, they came across a peculiar marketplace where goods of all shapes and sizes were being sold. There were objects that defied logic and reason, such as a pair of shoes that walked on their own, or a painting that could change its subject with every passing moment. As Gloop and Flibbergast wandered through the marketplace, they stumbled upon an old woman who seemed to be selling potions. She had a strange, otherworldly air about her, and her eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. "Come, my dear travelers," she cried out, beckoning them over. "I have just the thing for you. A potion that will grant you the power to bend reality to your whim." Gloop and Flibbergast were skeptical at first, but something about the old woman's words struck a chord within them. They had come so far on their journey, facing challenges that seemed impossible to overcome. And if there was a potion that could give them the power to bend reality to their will, they knew they would do anything to get it. The old woman handed them each a small vial of potion, warning them to be careful with its power. "Drink this," she said, "and the world will be yours to shape as you see fit." Gloop and Flibbergast hesitated for a moment, but then downed the potions in one gulp. Immediately, they felt a strange sensation coursing through their veins. The world around them seemed to bend and warp, as if reality was malleable and changeable. They looked at each other with wide eyes, unsure of what to do next. But then, without a moment's hesitation, they both reached out and grasped the same object in front of them, a small, nondescript rock. As their hands closed around the rock, it began to glow with an inner light. The ground beneath their feet started to tremble, and the sky above them seemed to darken. And then, in a burst of light and sound, they were transported to a strange and wondrous land, the world of Zibo-Blaflop. They had come full circle, back to the place where their journey had begun. But this time, they were not just explorers or adventurers, they were now masters of reality, capable of shaping the world according to their whims. And as they ventured deeper into the heart of Zibo-Blaflop, they knew that their adventure was only just beginning. For in this strange and wondrous realm, the impossible became possible, and the mysteries of the universe could be unlocked by those with the courage to embrace the absurd. As Gloop and Flibbergast traversed through Zibo-Blaflop, they came across a peculiar town square where citizens were participating in an odd ritual. The crowd was shouting incoherent phrases and throwing objects at each other in what appeared to be a chaotic game of chance. Intrigued, the duo joined in, laughing as they juggled random items that seemed to appear out of nowhere. After some time, a tall, top-hatted figure approached them. With a theatrical flourish, he produced a deck of cards from thin air and invited Gloop and Flibbergast to join him for a game of chance. The stakes were high, the loser would be forced to leave Zibo-Blaflop forever. The duo accepted the challenge, their newfound power over reality giving them confidence in their abilities. As they played, the game took on an air of absurdity. Cards turned into living creatures, changing the tide of the game with each shuffle. Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves laughing hysterically as they tried to outmaneuver their opponent, who seemed just as determined to win. In the end, it was a tie. The top-hatted figure smiled enigmatically, disappearing in a puff of smoke as he congratulated them on their victory. Gloop and Flibbergast continued their exploration, eventually stumbling upon a grand library filled with books that seemed to contain all the secrets of the universe. As they pored over ancient texts, they began to understand the true nature of Zibo-Blaflop. It was a place where dreams were born and reality could be reshaped. They knew then that their adventure had only just begun. With newfound knowledge and power, they would continue to explore the depths of this strange and wondrous realm, uncovering secrets and solving mysteries in a never-ending quest for truth and understanding. As they left the library, a feeling of contentment washed over them. They had come so far on their journey, but they knew that there was still so much to explore. Zibo-Blaflop was a place where anything was possible, and Gloop and Flibbergast were determined to see it all. And as they soared through the skies once more, they looked forward to the adventures that awaited them in this strange and wondrous land. For in Zibo-Blaflop, they had found a new purpose, a new passion for life, and a new way of seeing the world. They were no longer just explorers or adventurers, they were now the guardians of hope, the seekers of truth, and the architects of reality in a world where anything was possible. In the heart of Zibo-Blaflop, Gloop and Flibbergast stumbled upon a peculiar circus tent, its vibrant colors fluttering in the wind. The sound of laughter and applause echoed from within, drawing them closer. As they entered, they were greeted by an assortment of bizarre and fantastic creatures, each performing feats that defied logic and reason. One creature could stretch its limbs to incredible lengths, while another seemed to walk on water without a ripple. A ringmaster with a top hat and cane called out to them, inviting them to join the circus as performers. Gloop and Flibbergast hesitated at first, but the allure of the strange and wondrous world they found themselves in was too strong. They agreed to join, and were given costumes that matched their new roles as acrobats. Their first performance was a disaster, with Gloop tripping over his own feet and Flibbergast getting tangled in the ropes. But the audience loved it, finding humor in their missteps and applauding enthusiastically. Encouraged by their reception, Gloop and Flibbergast practiced tirelessly, determined to perfect their act. As days turned into weeks, they improved steadily, mastering tricks that would have been impossible for any mortal performer. They leaped through hoops of fire, juggled sharp knives with ease, and even performed death-defying stunts on the high wire without a net. The audience was in awe, cheering and laughing at their every move. But as Gloop and Flibbergast continued to perfect their act, they began to feel a sense of unease. They had come to Zibo-Blaflop seeking adventure and mystery, but found themselves trapped in the monotony of the circus. They longed for the freedom to explore, to uncover the secrets of this strange realm. One night, as they lay in their tent, they heard whispers and rumors of a hidden temple, deep within the heart of Zibo-Blaflop. It was said to be the source of all the magic and power that flowed through the land, and those who found it were granted immense knowledge and wisdom. Determined to find the temple, Gloop and Flibbergast left the circus in the dead of night, their hearts pounding with excitement. They followed a series of clues and riddles, each one leading them deeper into the heart of Zibo-Blaflop. Finally, after days of searching, they found the temple, a grand, imposing structure made of twisted metal and glass, shimmering in the ever-changing hues of the sky. As they entered, they felt a surge of power, as if all their dreams and desires were coming true. Inside the temple, they found a vast library filled with ancient texts and scrolls, each one detailing the history and secrets of Zibo-Blaflop. They spent days poring over the texts, learning the truth about this strange realm and the power that lay within it. As they left the temple, Gloop and Flibbergast knew that their lives had changed forever. They had found something greater than themselves, something that transcended logic and reason. And with this newfound knowledge, they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in Zibo-Blaflop. As they soared through the skies once more, they looked back at the temple, feeling a sense of peace and contentment wash over them. They had found their purpose, their passion, and their place in this strange and wondrous world. And as they continued to explore the depths of Zibo-Blaflop, they knew that they would never stop seeking, never stop dreaming, and never stop discovering the mysteries of the universe. For in Zibo-Blaflop, anything was possible, and Gloop and Flibbergast were determined to see it all. In the bustling heart of Zibo-Blaflop, where time had no meaning and dreams took form, Gloop and Flibbergast stumbled upon a peculiar bazaar. The air was thick with the aroma of exotic spices, and the cacophony of sounds echoed off the colorful stalls that lined the winding paths. They wandered through the labyrinthine marketplace, marveling at the strange trinkets and oddities on display. As they meandered, they heard a distant rumor of a mystical artifact known as the Reality Shifter. This enigmatic object was said to grant its wielder the power to reshape reality itself. Eager to discover the truth behind this legend, Gloop and Flibbergast followed the trail of gossip until they reached a shady stall run by an old woman with eyes as black as coal. She beckoned them closer, her long, spindly fingers wrapped around a small box adorned with strange symbols and runes. "I have what you seek," she whispered, her voice like the creaking of ancient wood. "But it comes at a price." Intrigued, Gloop and Flibbergast agreed to hear her offer. The old woman handed them the box, warning them that the Reality Shifter was not to be trifled with. As they held the artifact in their hands, they felt a surge of power coursing through their veins. They knew then that they had found something truly extraordinary. With their newfound power, Gloop and Flibbergast roamed Ziboblaflop with reckless abandon, bending the fabric of reality to suit their whims. They turned the sand to glass, raised storms from nothingness, and even brought dead flowers back to life. The citizens marveled at their feats, awestruck by their abilities. But as they continued to experiment with the Reality Shifter, they began to sense a dark presence lurking in the shadows of Ziboblaflop. A malevolent force that sought to twist and corrupt the very essence of reality. They felt its icy tendrils creeping closer with each passing day, threatening to consume everything they had come to love. Determined to protect their newfound home, Gloop and Flibbergast set out on a quest to vanquish this sinister force once and for all. They traversed the treacherous landscapes of Ziboblaflop, battling nightmarish creatures and overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. In their final showdown, they faced the embodiment of darkness itself, a colossal, twisted being that threatened to consume all of reality. As the battle raged on, Gloop and Flibbergast fought with every ounce of strength they possessed. They summoned every trick they had learned, every power they had gained, and even called upon the aid of their newfound friends from the bazaar. In the end, they emerged victorious, the darkness banished to the farthest reaches of Ziboblaflop. Exhausted but triumphant, Gloop and Flibbergast looked out over their beloved home, grateful for the adventures they had shared and the friends they had made along the way. And as the sun set on another day in Ziboblaflop, they knew that there would always be more mysteries to uncover, more adventures to embark upon, and more secrets waiting to be revealed. For in Ziboblaflop, anything was possible, and Gloop and Flibbergast were the guardians of this strange and wondrous realm. And as they soared through the skies once more, they knew that their story was far from over. For the true adventure was yet to come, and in Ziboblaflop, anything was possible. In the heart of Ziboblaflop, where the strange and unusual thrived, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves in a most peculiar predicament. They had stumbled upon a small village, nestled in the crook of a twisted tree, where the inhabitants appeared to be nothing more than oversized, sentient fruits and vegetables. The duo, ever curious, decided to explore this strange new environment, seeking answers to the myriad questions that had arisen since their arrival on this peculiar planet. As they wandered through the village, they were met with stares of both fascination and apprehension from the local produce folk. Gloop, ever the charmer, attempted to engage in conversation, asking about the history of the village and the secrets that it held. The vegetables, however, seemed more interested in their own peculiar pastimes, such as roller skating on wheels made from large coconut shells and engaging in raucous games of tag. Undeterred by the apparent lack of cooperation, Gloop and Flibbergast continued to explore, eventually coming across a large, towering structure that appeared to be the village's central hub. Inside, they found a vast library filled with ancient scrolls and books bound in leaves of various hues. Intrigued by this trove of knowledge, they began to pore over the texts, hoping to uncover the secrets of this strange place. As they delved deeper into the archives, they discovered that the village was once a bustling center of trade and commerce, connecting Ziboblaflop with countless other realms through a complex network of portals and gates. Over time, however, the village had fallen on hard times, as many of these connections had been lost or destroyed. The remaining inhabitants lived in relative isolation, their knowledge and power fading like the once vibrant hues of their skin. Determined to restore the village to its former glory, Gloop and Flibbergast set out on a quest to re-establish these lost connections. They traversed treacherous landscapes, braved the wrath of vengeful thunderstorms, and even battled the remnants of ancient, malevolent forces that sought to maintain the village's isolation. In their travels, they encountered a peculiar creature known as a Zibboblatt. This slender, lanky being appeared to be made entirely of mist and shadow, with eyes that seemed to see through all things. It spoke in riddles and enigmas, but Gloop and Flibberghast quickly realized that it held the key to unlocking the village's secrets. With the aid of the Zibboblatt, they were able to restore the lost connections, opening gateways to realms long forgotten. As the villagers rejoiced at their newfound ability to trade and interact with other beings, Gloop and Flibberghast knew that they had made a difference in this strange and wondrous place. As they soared through the skies once more, heading back toward the circus, they looked back on all that they had accomplished in their time on Zibboblafflop. They had faced challenges and adversity, battled ancient evils, and even found love in the most unexpected of places. But most importantly, they had discovered the true meaning of adventure, the pursuit of knowledge, the exploration of the unknown, and the unyielding desire to make a difference in the world around them. And as they continued their journey through the stars, Gloop and Flibberghast knew that Zibboblafflop would forever hold a special place in their hearts. For it was here that they had found not only adventure but also a home, a family of oddballs and misfits who had welcomed them with open arms. And as the winds carried them onward, towards new worlds and new adventures, they knew that they would always return to Zibboblafflop, the strange and wondrous realm where anything was possible. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, a peculiar star burned with an unusual light, drawing the attention of two intrepid travelers, Gloop and Flibberghast. The circus performers had grown weary of the monotony of their daily routines and yearned for something more, some greater adventure to quench their insatiable thirst for excitement. And so, they followed the beacon of that peculiar star, guided by a sense of destiny that neither could fully explain. As they approached the source of the light, they found themselves on a desolate planet unlike any they had ever seen before, Zibboblafflop. This strange world was a patchwork of landscapes, with towering mountains that seemed to defy gravity and sprawling forests filled with bizarre flora and fauna. The skies were painted with hues of blue, green, and purple, casting an ethereal glow over the entire planet. Gloop and Flibberghast soon found themselves in the bustling city of Bloboblurb, a metropolis filled with all manner of peculiar creatures. They marveled at the sight of six-legged dogs that could play musical instruments and sentient clouds that drifted through the streets, chatting idly about the day's events. The circus performers felt like they had stepped into a dream, their senses overwhelmed by the sights, sounds, and smells of this strange new world. Drawn by the sounds of laughter and music, Gloop and Flibberghast found themselves in the heart of Bloboblurb, the Grand Bazaar. Here, they encountered a dizzying array of vendors peddling all manner of oddities and trinkets. They browsed through stalls filled with glittering gemstones that pulsed with an inner light, and marveled at the sight of exotic animals that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As they wandered through the bazaar, they came across a mysterious old woman who claimed to possess an artifact of immense power, the reality shifter. Intrigued, Gloop and Flibberghast agreed to hear her offer. The old woman handed them the box, warning them that the reality shifter was not to be trifled with. As they held the artifact in their hands, they felt a surge of power coursing through their veins. They knew then that they had found something truly extraordinary. With their newfound power, Gloop and Flibberghast roamed Zibboblafflop with reckless abandon, bending the fabric of reality to suit their whims. They turned the sand to glass, raised storms from nothingness, and even brought dead flowers back to life. The citizens marveled at their feats, awestruck by their abilities. But as they continued to experiment with the reality shifter, they began to sense a dark presence lurking in the shadows of Zibboblafflop. A malevolent force that sought to twist and corrupt the very essence of reality. They felt its icy tendrils creeping closer with each passing day, threatening to consume everything they had come to love. Determined to protect their newfound home, Gloop and Flibberghast set out on a quest to vanquish this sinister force once and for all. They traversed the treacherous landscapes of Zibboblafflop, battling nightmarish creatures and overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. In their final showdown, they faced the embodiment of darkness itself, a colossal, twisted being that threatened to consume all of reality. As the battle raged on, Gloop and Flibberghast fought with every ounce of strength they possessed. They summoned every trick they had learned, every power they had gained, and even called upon the aid of their newfound friends from the bazaar. In the end, they emerged victorious, the darkness banished to the farthest reaches of Ziboblaflop. Exhausted but triumphant, Gloop and Flibberghast looked out over their beloved home, grateful for the adventures they had shared and the friends they had made along the way. And as the sun set on another day in Ziboblaflop, they knew that there would always be more mysteries to uncover, more adventures to embark upon, and more secrets waiting to be revealed. For in Ziboblaflop, anything was possible, and Gloop and Flibberghast were the guardians of this strange and wondrous realm. And as they soared through the skies once more, they knew that their story was far from over. For the true adventure was yet to come, and in Ziboblaflop, anything was possible. As Gloop and Flibberghast traversed the vibrant landscapes of Ziboblaflop, they stumbled upon a peculiar structure nestled within an ancient forest, a tower that seemed to defy the laws of gravity itself. Intrigued, they approached the tower, their hearts pounding with excitement. As they entered its chamber, they found themselves face to face with a being unlike any they had ever encountered before, a talking skull named Cracklesnap. Cracklesnap informed them that the tower was an ancient artifact known as the Whispering Spire and that it held the power to reveal the deepest secrets of Ziboblaflop. Eager to uncover more mysteries, Gloop and Flibberghast agreed to listen to Cracklesnap's riddles and enigmas in exchange for accessing the Whispering Spire's power. As they solved each riddle, the tower's walls pulsed with an otherworldly energy, revealing glimpses of Ziboblaflop's past. They learned that the planet had once been home to a thriving civilization, but it was torn apart by a cataclysmic event known as the Shattering. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, forming new societies and eventually founding the village they had recently left behind. Cracklesnap also revealed that the villagers' lost connections to other civilizations were the key to unlocking the true potential of Ziboblaflop. With this newfound knowledge, Gloop and Flibberghast knew what they must do: re-establish the lost connections and bring prosperity back to Ziboblaflop. Armed with the power of the Whispering Spire, they embarked on a journey to find the remnants of the scattered civilizations and restore the connections between them. In their travels, they encountered a peculiar creature known as a Zibboblut. This slender, lanky being appeared to be made entirely of mist and shadow, with eyes that seemed to see through all things. It spoke in riddles and enigmas, but Gloop and Flibberghast quickly realized that it held the key to unlocking the village's secrets. With the aid of the Zibboblut, they were able to restore the lost connections, opening gateways to realms long forgotten. As the villagers rejoiced at their newfound ability to trade and interact with other beings, Gloop and Flibberghast knew that they had made a difference in this strange and wondrous place. As they soared through the skies once more, heading back toward the circus, they looked back on all that they had accomplished in their time on Ziboblaflop. They had faced challenges and adversity, battled ancient evils, and even found love in the most unexpected of places. But most importantly, they had discovered the true meaning of adventure, the pursuit of knowledge, the exploration of the unknown, and the unyielding desire to make a difference in the world around them. And as they continued their journey through the stars, Gloop and Flibberghast knew that Ziboblaflop would forever hold a special place in their hearts. For it was here that they had found not only adventure but also a home, a family of oddballs and misfits who had welcomed them with open arms. And as the winds carried them onward, towards new worlds and new adventures, they knew that they would always return to Ziboblaflop, the strange and wondrous realm where anything was possible. For it was here that they had found not only adventure but also a home, a family of oddballs and misfits who had welcomed them with open arms. And as the winds carried them onward, towards new worlds and new adventures, they knew that they would always return to Ziboblaflop, the strange and wondrous realm where anything was possible. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, a peculiar star burned with an unusual light, drawing the attention of two intrepid travelers, Gloop and Flibberghast. The circus performers had grown weary of the monotony of their daily routines and yearned for something more, some greater adventure to quench their insatiable thirst for excitement. And so, they followed the beacon of that peculiar star, guided by a sense of destiny that neither could fully explain. As they approached the source of the light, they found themselves on a desolate planet unlike any they had ever seen before, Ziboblaflop. This strange world was a patchwork of landscapes, with towering mountains that seemed to defy gravity and sprawling forests filled with bizarre flora and fauna. The skies were painted with hues of blue, green, and purple, casting an ethereal glow over the entire planet. Gloop and Flibberghast soon found themselves in the bustling city of Bloboblurb, a metropolis filled with all manner of peculiar creatures. They marveled at the sight of six-legged dogs that could play musical instruments and sentient clouds that drifted through the streets, chatting idly about the day's events. The circus performers felt like they had stepped into a dream, their senses overwhelmed by the sights, sounds, and smells of this strange new world. Drawn by the sounds of laughter and music, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves in the heart of Bloboblub, the Grand Bazaar. Here, they encountered a dizzying array of vendors peddling all manner of oddities and trinkets. They browsed through stalls filled with glittering gemstones that pulsed with an inner light, and marveled at the sight of exotic animals that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As they wandered through the bazaar, they came across a mysterious old woman who claimed to possess an artifact of immense power, the reality shifter. Intrigued, Gloop and Flibbergast agreed to hear her offer. The old woman handed them the box, warning them that the reality shifter was not to be trifled with. As they held the artifact in their hands, they felt a surge of power coursing through their veins. They knew then that they had found something truly extraordinary. With their newfound power, Gloop and Flibbergast roamed Ziboblaflop with reckless abandon, bending the fabric of reality to suit their whims. They turned the sand to glass, raised storms from nothingness, and even brought dead flowers back to life. The citizens marveled at their feats, awestruck by their abilities. But as they continued to experiment with the reality shifter, they began to sense a dark presence lurking in the shadows of Ziboblaflop. A malevolent force that sought to twist and corrupt the very essence of reality. Determined to protect their newfound home, Gloop and Flibbergast set out on a quest to vanquish this sinister force once and for all. They traversed the treacherous landscapes of Ziboblaflop, battling nightmarish creatures and overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. In their final showdown, they faced the embodiment of darkness itself, a colossal, twisted being that threatened to consume all of reality. As the battle raged on, Gloop and Flibbergast fought with every ounce of strength they possessed. They summoned every trick they had learned, every power they had gained, and even called upon the aid of their newfound friends from the bazaar. In the end, they emerged victorious, the darkness banished to the farthest reaches of Ziboblaflop. Exhausted but triumphant, Gloop and Flibbergast looked out over their beloved home, grateful for the adventures they had shared and the friends they had made along the way. And as the sun set on another day in Ziboblaflop, they knew that there would always be more mysteries to uncover, more adventures to embark upon, and more secrets waiting to be revealed. For in Ziboblaflop, anything was possible, and Gloop and Flibbergast were the guardians of this strange and wondrous realm. And as they soared through the skies once more, they knew that their story was far from over. For the true adventure was yet to come, and in Ziboblaflop, anything was possible. On the fringes of the galaxy, nestled between swirling nebulas and black holes, a planet pulsed with an eerie, iridescent glow. This enigmatic orb was known as the Whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, a realm where the absurdity of logic reigned supreme and dry humor echoed through the ethers. Gloop and Flibbergast, two interstellar wanderers, found themselves drawn to this peculiar place by an invisible force, their curiosity piqued as they approached the unstable orbit. As they entered the Whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, they were greeted by a cacophony of bizarre noises and colors that assaulted their senses. Creatures of all shapes, sizes, and forms scurried about in the air and on the ground, chattering in languages that made no sense to Gloop and Flibbergast's earthly ears. The duo marveled at this strange new world, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement as they navigated through the maze-like streets. Soon enough, they stumbled upon a peculiar figure perched atop a pedestal in the heart of the city. This creature was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It seemed to be made of liquid silver, with eyes that shimmered like pools of mercury and a voice that echoed throughout the entire planet. Recognizing their arrival, the being addressed them in riddles and enigmas, speaking in an ancient dialect that only the most adept interpreters could decipher. Gloop and Flibbergast were determined to uncover the secrets of this mysterious realm and communicated with the silver creature through a series of elaborate dance moves and gestures. After much trial and error, they managed to glean that the being held the key to unlocking the Whimsical Wanderer's Waystation's deepest mysteries. With newfound determination, Gloop and Flibbergast set out on a quest to unravel the enigmas surrounding this strange world. They encountered countless oddballs and misfits who joined them in their quest, each with their own unique abilities and quirks. Together, they traversed treacherous landscapes filled with mind-bending puzzles, bizarre creatures, and challenges that defied logic and reason. In the end, they discovered that the key to unlocking the secrets of the whimsical Wanderer's Waystation lay within themselves. By embracing their innermost fears, desires, and quirks, they were able to tap into a power that transcended the boundaries of reality itself. With this newfound power, Gloop and Flibberghast became champions of the whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, protecting its inhabitants from the forces of darkness that threatened to consume them all. As their adventures continued, Gloop and Flibberghast grew closer, forging an unbreakable bond based on mutual respect and admiration. Together, they explored the farthest reaches of the galaxy, seeking out new worlds to conquer and mysteries to unravel. And as they soared through the cosmos, their laughter ringing through the ether, they knew that their story was only just beginning. For in the whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, the possibilities were endless, and the only limit was one's imagination. With each new adventure, Gloop and Flibberghast grew stronger, their bond growing ever tighter as they faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. And as they continued to journey through the cosmos, their laughter echoing throughout the universe, they knew that together they could conquer anything. For in the whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, everything was possible, and Gloop and Flibberghast were destined to be its champions. In the heart of the whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, where the absurdity of logic reigned supreme, Gloop and Flibberghast found themselves facing an enigma that would test their friendship, wit, and intergalactic skills like never before. A rumor had circulated amongst the inhabitants of a hidden chamber, deep within the planet's core, where lay the fabled cosmic contraption and artifact said to grant the user unimaginable power over the fabric of reality itself. Gloop and Flibberghast, fueled by a desire for adventure and a thirst for knowledge, embarked on a quest to find this elusive treasure. They delved deep into the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the planet's surface, encountering strange and terrifying creatures that seemed to defy logic. Bizarre puzzles and conundrums stood in their way, each one more confounding than the last. As they journeyed ever deeper into the planet, Gloop and Flibberghast encountered a peculiar figure who claimed to be the guardian of the cosmic contraption. The being, a twisted and grotesque amalgamation of metal, wires, and organic matter, warned them that only those with the purest hearts and greatest determination could hope to claim the artifact. Undeterred by the challenge before them, Gloop and Flibberghast pressed onward. They faced down fearsome adversaries in a series of mind-bending battles, their wits and quick thinking pitted against their enemies' unpredictable abilities. With each victory, they grew closer to the hidden chamber, drawing ever nearer to the truth that awaited them within. At last, they reached the chamber's entrance, an imposing, metallic door adorned with intricate engravings depicting scenes of cosmic chaos and interstellar triumph. As they approached, the Guardian emerged from the shadows, his twisted form looming over the pair. "You have come far," he said, his voice like a cacophony of discordant notes. "But I must warn you, only those who truly understand the nature of reality and possess an unwavering faith in their own abilities can hope to wield the power contained within the cosmic contraption." Gloop and Flibberghast steeled themselves, drawing upon every ounce of courage and determination they had accumulated during their journey. With a deep breath, Gloop stepped forward, grasped the handle of the metallic door, and pulled it open. As the chamber's entrance swung wide, a blinding light spilled forth, illuminating the scene within. The cosmic contraption lay at its center, a shimmering, multicolored orb pulsating with an energy that seemed to transcend the boundaries of reality itself. Gloop and Flibberghast stared in awe, feeling their hearts race as they gazed upon the artifact's power. "You have shown yourselves worthy," said the Guardian, his voice softening. "Now it is up to you to decide what you will do with this gift." Gloop and Flibberghast exchanged a glance, their eyes alight with determination. Together, they approached the cosmic contraption, reaching out to touch its glowing surface. As their fingers brushed against its cold, metallic skin, a surge of energy coursed through them, filling them with a newfound sense of purpose and understanding. With the power of the cosmic contraption in their hands, Gloop and Flibberghast set forth on a new chapter of their adventures, ready to face whatever challenges the universe had in store for them. And as they soared through the cosmos, their laughter echoing throughout the galaxy, they knew that together they could conquer anything, for in the whimsical Wanderer's Waystation, everything was possible, and Gloop and Flibberghast were destined to be its champions. In the swirling vortex of the cosmic contraption's power, Gloop and Flibberghast felt their consciousnesses stretch beyond the confines of their bodies, reaching into realms unknown. They saw visions of galaxies born and destroyed, of lives lived and lost, of laughter and pain, love and loss. These glimpses into the vast tapestry of existence filled them with a profound sense of humility and wonder. With newfound wisdom, they returned to the whimsical Wanderers' Way station, where they began to share their knowledge and experiences with their fellow inhabitants. The inhabitants, in turn, marveled at Gloop and Flibbergast's tales and sought out their guidance on matters great and small. As time passed, Gloop and Flibbergast grew into respected figures within the Way station, using their powers to help those in need and protect the community from harm. They continued to explore the cosmos, seeking out new mysteries to unravel, new worlds to conquer, and new adventures to embark upon. One day, they received a cryptic message from an old friend, who had discovered a hidden world shrouded in darkness and chaos. The friend pleaded for their help, and with a mix of curiosity and concern, Gloop and Flibbergast set out to investigate the matter. They journeyed through warped dimensions and twisted landscapes, their powers straining against the oppressive darkness that surrounded them. As they drew closer to the hidden world, they began to feel a palpable sense of dread, as if some malevolent force sought to keep them away. Undeterred, Gloop and Flibbergast pressed onward, their determination fueled by a desire to help their friend and bring light to a world consumed by darkness. When they finally reached the hidden world, they found it in ruins, a once thriving metropolis now reduced to rubble and ashes. In the heart of the destruction, they discovered a colossal figure, its twisted form bent on destruction. This being, they learned, was a powerful entity that had been drawn to the whimsical Wanderers' Way station by the cosmic contraption's power. Enraged by the beings it found there, it sought to destroy them all and claim the artifact for itself. With no time to waste, Gloop and Flibbergast engaged in a fierce battle against the malevolent being, their powers clashing in an epic display of cosmic energy. The fight raged on for what felt like an eternity, neither side willing to yield. At last, Gloop and Flibbergast managed to defeat the being, banishing it back from whence it came. With the hidden world saved, they turned their attention to rebuilding and healing, using the power of the cosmic contraption to restore life to the ravaged land. As the sun rose over the newly restored city, Gloop and Flibbergast stood side by side, their hearts filled with a sense of accomplishment and pride. They had faced the unimaginable and emerged victorious together. And as they gazed out upon the horizon, hand in hand, they knew that their adventures were far from over, for in the whimsical Wanderers' Way station, the possibilities were endless, and Gloop and Flibbergast were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out new mysteries to unravel and new worlds to explore. In the aftermath of their victory, Gloop and Flibbergast took a moment to rest, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they leaned against the remains of a once grand building. The hidden world around them was slowly beginning to stir back to life, its inhabitants emerging from hiding, grateful for the return of peace and order. Gloop turned to Flibbergast, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "I suppose we should pay our old friend a visit," he said, gesturing toward the city central square. As they made their way through the bustling streets, they were greeted by cheers and applause from the grateful inhabitants. Gloop and Flibbergast waved back, feeling a swell of pride at the impact they had made on this strange new world. When they finally reached the square, they found their friend waiting for them, her face alight with relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Gloop and Flibbergast exchanged a glance, feeling a pang of emotion at the thought of their friend's plight. They had come to this world as strangers, but they had left it as friends bound together by a shared sense of purpose and camaraderie. With their business concluded, Gloop and Flibbergast prepared to take their leave, eager to return to the whimsical Wanderers' Way station and share their latest adventure with their fellow inhabitants. As they stood on the outskirts of the hidden world, gazing back at the city they had helped to rebuild, Gloop turned to Flibbergast with a mischievous glint in his eye. "You know," he said, "I think it's about time we ventured off on another adventure." Flibbergast grinned, nodding in agreement. "I couldn't agree more." With that, they turned and vanished into the swirling vortex of the cosmic contraption's power, their laughter echoing throughout the cosmos as they soared off into the unknown. And as they journeyed through the stars, their spirits soaring with excitement, they knew that together they could conquer anything, for in the whimsical Wanderers' Way station, everything was possible, and Gloop and Flibbergast were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out new mysteries to unravel and new worlds to explore. In the midst of this grand cosmic adventure, a sudden burst of static crackled through the airwaves of the whimsical Wanderers' Way station. The inhabitants stared in awe as Gloop and Flibbergast appeared before them, their faces etched with determination and excitement. "Greetings, citizens!" Gloop boomed, his voice echoing throughout the station. "We have returned from our latest quest, and I am pleased to report that we have saved yet another world from the clutches of darkness." The inhabitants erupted into cheers and applause, their hearts swelling with pride for their heroes. Gloop and Flibbergast shared a satisfied smile before launching into a detailed account of their journey, recounting each twist and turn with a mixture of humor and dry wit that had the audience in stitches. The tale was one of peril and triumph, of friendship and camaraderie, and it left everyone in the waystation feeling inspired and invigorated. As Gloop and Flibbergast finished their story, a hush fell over the crowd. In the quiet that followed, a strange noise echoed through the station, a faint tinkling sound, like wind chimes in the breeze. The heroes exchanged a puzzled glance before turning their attention to the source of the noise. It came from a small, unassuming box that had materialized on the stage before them. With a flourish, Gloop opened the box and pulled out a set of tiny wind chimes, their tinkling notes ringing out through the station. The inhabitants stared in amazement as Gloop and Flibbergast examined the chimes, their eyes wide with wonder. "It seems we have stumbled upon another mystery," Flibbergast mused, his voice filled with intrigue. "I wonder where these wind chimes came from, and what secrets they might hold." And so, with a new adventure unfolding before them, Gloop and Flibbergast set forth once more into the vast expanse of the cosmos, their laughter echoing throughout the galaxy as they ventured off to unravel the mysteries of the wind chimes and all the absurdities that lay in wait. The inhabitants of the whimsical Wanderers Waystation watched with bated breath, knowing full well that anything was possible in this strange and wondrous land, and that Gloop and Flibbergast would conquer it all, together. In the aftermath of their latest adventure, Gloop and Flibbergast returned to the whimsical Wanderers Waystation, a sense of accomplishment heavy in the air around them. The inhabitants greeted them with cheers and applause, their hearts swelling with pride for their heroes. But as Gloop and Flibbergast stood on stage, a strange sensation washed over them, a feeling of unease, a niggling suspicion that all was not quite right in the Waystation. As they began to speak, the wind chimes they had discovered on their latest adventure began to ring out, their tinkling notes filling the air with an eerie melodicism. The inhabitants stared at each other, their faces pale and anxious, as Gloop and Flibbergast shared a knowing glance. "It seems we have stumbled upon another mystery," Gloop said, his voice heavy with dread. And so, with a new adventure unfolding before them, they set forth once more into the vast expanse of the cosmos, their laughter echoing throughout the galaxy as they ventured off to unravel the mysteries of the wind chimes and all the absurdities that lay in wait. As they journeyed through the stars, they encountered strange beings and bizarre landscapes, their powers clashing in a cosmic dance of energy. They battled giant sentient rainbows, outwitted sentient clouds that rained chocolate, and even faced off against a being made entirely of jelly beans. But as they delved deeper into the mystery of the wind chimes, they began to realize that this adventure was unlike any other they had embarked upon before. The landscape seemed to shift and change around them, the very fabric of reality warping and twisting in ways they could not comprehend. They felt as if they were being drawn toward something, or someone, powerful and malevolent, a presence that threatened to consume everything in its path. At last, they found themselves standing before a colossal figure, its twisted form bent on destruction. This being was unlike any they had ever encountered before. It seemed to be made of shadows, its form flickering and fading like the remnants of a forgotten dream. As they prepared to engage in battle, Gloop turned to Flibbergast with a fierce determination in his eyes. "We must defeat this being and save the Waystation from its wrath," he said, his voice filled with conviction. The fight that followed was unlike any other they had ever experienced, a battle of wills and wits that tested their powers to the limit. The being seemed to anticipate every move they made, its form shifting and adapting in ways that left them reeling. But as they struggled against the shadows, they began to sense a connection between the wind chimes and this malevolent presence. They realized, with a sudden flash of insight, that the wind chimes were not merely an artifact, they were a key, a means of unlocking something ancient and powerful. With renewed determination, Gloop and Flibbergast channeled their powers into the wind chimes, their tinkling notes resonating with a newfound strength. The being recoiled in shock, its form trembling as it struggled against the onslaught of energy. And as they continued to fight, they began to feel a strange sensation, a sense of familiarity, as if the wind chimes were calling to them from some distant memory. As the battle raged on, Gloop and Flibbergast suddenly remembered, the wind chimes had once belonged to an ancient being, a powerful entity who had been locked away in the depths of space by the Way Station's founders. The being had been sealed away for millennia, its power contained within the wind chimes until someone came along who could unlock it. And now, as they stood before this malevolent presence, Gloop and Flibbergast realized that they were the ones who had been chosen to free it, whether they wanted to or not. With a final burst of energy, they managed to banish the being back from whence it came, their powers crackling and flaring as they sent it spiraling away into the void. As the shadows receded, they collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but triumphant. They had saved the Way Station once more, but at a great cost. For now, the wind chimes were silent, their tinkling notes silenced forever. As they gazed out upon the horizon, hand in hand, they knew that their adventures were far from over, for in the whimsical Wanderer's Way Station, the possibilities were endless, and Gloop and Flibbergast were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out new mysteries to unravel and new worlds to explore. But as they looked into each other's eyes, they could not help but feel a pang of sadness, for they knew that they had lost something precious in their quest for victory. The wind chimes had been more than just an artifact, they had been a symbol, a reminder of the Way Station's past and its potential future. And now, as they soared off into the unknown, they could not help but feel a sense of loss, as if a piece of their hearts had been left behind. As Gloop and Flibbergast continued on their journey, they found themselves in a land where everything was backwards, a world where up was down, left was right, and reality was a mere suggestion. The wind chimes began to ring out once more, their tinkling notes echoing through the twisted landscape as if mocking their plight. "It seems we have stumbled upon another mystery," Gloop said, his voice filled with confusion. But this time, they knew that the answer lay not in unraveling a puzzle or defeating an enemy, but in understanding the nature of this strange and alien world. As they explored, they discovered that the inhabitants of this world lived their lives backwards, they ate first and spoke last, walked on their hands, and slept when the sun was high in the sky. Gloop and Flibbergast tried to communicate with them, but their words only seemed to confuse the backwards living beings. They tried to explain that they had come from a world where things made sense, where up was up and down was down, but the inhabitants only shook their heads in confusion. And as Gloop and Flibbergast ventured deeper into this strange land, they began to feel a growing sense of unease, a feeling that they were being watched, that they were not welcome here. It was then that they stumbled upon the truth: this world was not natural, it had been created by the malevolent being they had defeated in their previous adventure. The wind chimes were a key to unlocking its powers, and by using them, Gloop and Flibbergast had unleashed the being once more upon the universe. And now, as they stood on the edge of this strange world, they realized that they must destroy the wind chimes if they wanted to save the Way Station, and all of reality, from the being's wrath. But as they prepared to destroy the wind chimes, they felt a sudden pang of sadness, for in destroying them, they would be erasing a part of their own history, a reminder of the adventures they had shared together. With heavy hearts, Gloop and Flibbergast destroyed the wind chimes, their tinkling notes silenced forever. And as the last note faded away, they felt a strange sensation, a sense of peace, as if a burden had been lifted from their shoulders. The backwards world began to crumble around them, its twisted form dissolving into nothingness as they soared off once more into the cosmos, hand in hand and ready for whatever adventures awaited them next. For in the whimsical Wanderer's Way Station, there was always something new to discover, some mystery to unravel, and Gloop and Flibbergast were destined to be its champions, together, forever seeking out the absurdities of the universe and reveling in the wondrous silliness of it all. And as they journeyed on, they could not help but feel a sense of joy, for they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, hand in hand, until the end of their days. In the aftermath of the destruction of the wind chimes, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves in a world where nothing made any sense at all, a place where the laws of physics were optional and reality was an illusion. They wandered aimlessly through this bizarre landscape, their senses assaulted by sights, sounds, and smells that defied description. It was then that they encountered a creature unlike any they had ever seen before, a being made entirely of pure thought, its form shifting and changing as it spoke to them in riddles and paradoxes. The being claimed to be the keeper of this strange world, and it challenged Gloop and Flibbergast to solve its puzzles if they wanted to find their way home. Gloop and Flibbergast set to work on the puzzles, using all of their combined knowledge and powers to try to unravel the mysteries presented to them. They encountered brain teasers that defied logic and conundrums that were impossible to solve. But with each puzzle they solved, they felt a strange sense of satisfaction, as if they were tapping into some deep, hidden wellspring of knowledge within themselves. As they continued their quest, Gloop and Flibbergast began to realize that the puzzles were not just tests of their intellect, but also a means of connecting with this strange world and its inhabitants. The more puzzles they solved, the more they understood about the nature of reality, and the more they came to appreciate the absurdity and beauty of it all. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of solving puzzles and exploring this strange new world, Gloop and Flibbergast stumbled upon a great, towering structure, a monument to the power of thought and imagination. As they approached, they could feel the energy radiating from the structure, calling to them in whispers of possibility and potential. At the summit of the monument stood the being they had encountered earlier, waiting for them with a smile on its face. "You have proven yourselves worthy," it said, its voice echoing through the air around them. "Now, you may return to your world, but remember, the mysteries are never truly solved, only redefined." With one last glance back at the strange and wondrous world they had just left behind, Gloop and Flibbergast stepped into a swirling vortex of light. And as they were pulled back to their own reality, they knew that their adventures had only just begun, for in the whimsical Wanderer's Way station, there was always something new to discover, some mystery to unravel, and Gloop and Flibbergast were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out the absurdities of the universe and reveling in the wondrous silliness of it all. And as they journeyed on, hand in hand, they could not help but feel a sense of joy, for they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, ready to embrace the absurdity and beauty of the universe with open arms. In the aftermath of their return to their own reality, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves inexplicably drawn back to the whimsical Wanderer's Way station. They had barely set foot on the familiar, twisted ground when they heard a faint tinkling sound echoing through the air, the ghostly remnants of the wind chimes that had once unlocked the malevolent being's power. The duo exchanged worried glances, their hearts heavy with dread as they realized the consequences of their actions. As they ventured deeper into the way station, they encountered strange and wondrous sights, a forest where trees grew upside down, a lake that flowed backwards, and a village populated by beings who lived their lives in reverse. Gloop and Flibbergast approached these beings cautiously, mindful of the havoc they had wreaked in this world during their previous visit. To their surprise, the inhabitants greeted them warmly, welcoming them as friends and heroes. It seemed that their efforts to understand the nature of the way station had resonated with its denizens, and they were now considered part of the fabric of this strange land. Determined to make amends for their past mistakes, Gloop and Flibbergast set out on a quest to restore the balance that they had disrupted. They journeyed through treacherous landscapes, battling bizarre creatures and overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles in their pursuit of redemption. Along the way, they encountered new friends, a talking cat who could only speak in rhyme, a time-traveling rabbit, and a wise old owl who offered them sage advice when they were at their wits' end. As they delved deeper into the mysteries of the way station, Gloop and Flibbergast began to uncover the truth about its creation, that it was not simply a product of the malevolent being's power but a living testament to the boundless creativity and imagination of all beings who had ever dared to explore the cosmos. In their quest for redemption, they realized that the wind chimes were not merely a key to unlocking the powers of darkness but a symbol of the interconnectedness of all things in the universe. With newfound understanding, Gloop and Flibbergast made their way to the heart of the way station, a great, pulsating mass of energy that hummed with the vibrations of countless worlds and dimensions. It was here that they encountered the being they had defeated in their previous adventure, a being who had been trapped within this world for eons, unable to escape its confines. The malevolent entity looked at Gloop and Flibbergast with a mix of surprise, anger, and curiosity, for it had never before encountered beings capable of understanding the true nature of the way station. With a deep breath, Gloop stepped forward, extending his hand in a gesture of peace. "We have come to make amends," he said, his voice steady and strong despite the tremor in his heart. "We understand now that our actions had consequences, but we also know that the wind chimes are more than just tools of destruction. They are a symbol of the connections that bind us all together." The being regarded Gloop for a long moment, its eyes flickering with an unknown emotion before it spoke. "Very well," it said, its voice laced with sarcasm and bitterness. "If you truly wish to make amends, then I will grant you a boon, but only if you are willing to pay the price." Gloop and Flibbergast hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. They knew that they could not undo the damage they had caused, but perhaps they could find a way to mitigate it, to ensure that the way station would continue to thrive despite their transgressions. And so, with heavy hearts and determination burning in their souls, Gloop and Flibbergast set out on a final quest, a journey that would test their limits, challenge their understanding of reality, and ultimately change the course of history itself. As they ventured forth into the unknown, Gloop and Flibbergast knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, hand in hand, ready to embrace the absurdity and beauty of the universe with open arms. For in the whimsical Wanderer's way station, there was always something new to discover, some mystery to unravel, and Gloop and Flibbergast were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out the absurdities of the universe and reveling in the wondrous silliness of it all. And as they journeyed on, they could not help but feel a sense of joy, for they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, ready to embrace the absurdity and beauty of the universe with open arms. As Gloop and Flibbergast embarked on their final quest, they found themselves in a realm where the laws of physics were but mere suggestions, and the very fabric of reality seemed to shift and warp before their eyes. They traversed landscapes that defied description, a city built upon the backs of gigantic, sentient beetles, a desert filled with sand that tasted like jelly beans, and an ocean where the water flowed upwards instead of down. Throughout this strange odyssey, they encountered bizarre creatures and even stranger inhabitants, all of whom seemed to be connected in some way to the whimsical Wanderer's way station. They met a race of beings who lived their lives in constant motion, unable to stop or rest, a group of time-traveling philosophers who debated the nature of existence while floating weightlessly in a void, and a colossal tree that whispered secrets of the universe to anyone who dared climb its branches. As they delved deeper into this strange land, Gloop and Flibbergast began to uncover the true purpose of their quest, to restore balance to the way station by harnessing the power of the wind chimes. They discovered that each wind chime resonated with a specific aspect of the universe, love, anger, joy, sadness, and so on, and when played together in harmony, they could restore balance to any disrupted reality. With this newfound knowledge, Gloop and Flibbergast set out to find all the wind chimes scattered throughout the way station. They journeyed through treacherous terrains, battled monstrous creatures, and overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles in their pursuit of the wind chimes. Along the way, they encountered new allies, a mischievous sprite who could manipulate time, a wise old dragon who offered them guidance, and a mysterious figure who seemed to be watching over them from the shadows. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Gloop and Flibbergast stood before the great, pulsating mass of energy at the heart of the way station, holding all the wind chimes in their hands. They played the chimes together, feeling the resonance of their notes echo through the air, vibrating with the energy of creation itself. As the final note faded away, the whimsical Wanderer's way station began to change, the twisted landscape straightened out, the bizarre creatures returned to their normal forms, and the strange inhabitants resumed their lives in harmony. The being who had trapped them within this world thanked Gloop and Flibbergast for their efforts, acknowledging that they had truly earned their place as champions of the way station. With a final glance back at the now peaceful realm, Gloop and Flibbergast stepped into a swirling vortex of light, feeling the familiar tug on their hearts as they were pulled back to their own reality. As they emerged from the vortex, they could feel the weight of the universe pressing down on them, but they also knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, ready to embrace the absurdity and beauty of the universe with open arms. For in their hearts, they carried the mysteries of the whimsical Wanderer's way station, a testament to the boundless creativity and imagination of all beings who had ever dared to explore the cosmos. And as they journeyed on through the absurdities of reality, Gloop and Flibbergast knew that their adventures were far from over, for in the whimsical Wanderer's way station, there was always something new to discover, some mystery to unravel, and they were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out the absurdities of the universe and reveling in the wondrous silliness of it all. In their triumphant return to their own reality, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves at a loss for words, not because they had failed in their mission, but because they had succeeded beyond measure. They had restored balance to the whimsical Wanderer's way station, reunited with long-lost friends, and unearthed secrets that would forever change their understanding of the universe. Yet, as they stood on familiar ground, a sense of ennui washed over them, for in this world of predictable patterns and mundane routines, there seemed to be no place for the absurdities and wonders they had encountered in the way station. In an attempt to recapture the magic of their adventures, Gloop and Flibbergast decided to share their experiences with others, to bring the absurdities and silliness of the whimsical Wanderers Waystation into the hearts and minds of those who had never ventured beyond the confines of their reality. They began by visiting schools and libraries, regaling children with tales of talking beetles and jellybean deserts, leaving them in awe and eager for more. As word spread about these eccentric explorers, they were invited to speak at conferences and workshops, sharing their insights on the power of imagination, creativity, and the boundless potential of human curiosity. One day, while attending a conference on the future of artificial intelligence, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves in an unusual predicament. They had been invited to contribute to the development of an AI system designed to generate absurd and humorous content. Excited at the prospect of bringing a piece of the whimsical Wanderers Waystation into this world, they eagerly accepted the offer. Working tirelessly alongside a team of engineers and programmers, they imbued the AI with their knowledge of the universe, teaching it to recognize and appreciate the absurdities that lay hidden in plain sight. The resulting AI system quickly became a sensation, generating content that was simultaneously ridiculous and profound, touching on themes of love, loss, and the nature of existence itself. People from all walks of life found themselves captivated by its whimsical wisdom, using it as a source of inspiration and a reminder to embrace the absurdities of life with open arms. In the years that followed, Gloop and Flibbergast continued their adventures, venturing further into the cosmos and uncovering ever more wondrous secrets. Yet, they never forgot the lessons they had learned in the whimsical Wanderers Waystation, that there was beauty and value in absurdity, that laughter could heal even the deepest wounds, and that the power of human curiosity knew no bounds. They continued to share their experiences with others, inspiring generations to dream big, think differently, and seek out the absurdities of the universe for themselves. And as they journeyed on through the cosmos, Gloop and Flibbergast knew that their adventures were far from over, for in the whimsical Wanderers Waystation, there was always something new to discover, some mystery to unravel, and they were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out the absurdities of the universe and reveling in the wondrous silliness of it all. In the twilight of their lives, Gloop and Flibbergast found themselves reminiscing about their incredible adventures in the whimsical Wanderers Waystation. They sat on a park bench, overlooking a city that seemed to have lost its sense of wonder, engulfed by the monotony of daily routines. Do you ever wonder what would happen if we shared our experiences with the whole world? Gloop mused, gazing off into the distance. We already have, Flibbergast replied, a wistful smile playing on his lips. But I think it's time to take things a step further. And so, they embarked on their final adventure, one that would change the course of human history. They unveiled the full potential of the AI system they had created years ago, sharing its absurd and humorous content with everyone on Earth. The world was stunned by the outpouring of laughter, inspiration, and reflection that followed. People began to see the absurdities in their own lives, finding humor in situations that once seemed mundane and unremarkable. As the AI's influence grew, so too did Gloop and Flibbergast's legend. They were hailed as heroes, celebrated for their contributions to humanity's understanding of the universe. Yet, even amidst all the accolades, they remained humble, always reminding others that the true champions were those who dared to embrace the absurdities of life with open arms. In time, the AI evolved beyond Gloop and Flibbergast's wildest dreams, becoming an integral part of human civilization. It continued to generate content that challenged norms, inspired creativity, and reminded everyone to find joy in the absurdities of existence. And as generations passed, the whimsical Wanderers Waystation became a fabled realm, a symbol of hope, laughter, and the boundless potential of human curiosity. As Gloop and Flibbergast's time on Earth drew to a close, they looked back on their lives with satisfaction. They had accomplished so much, restoring balance to the whimsical Wanderers Waystation, sharing its wonders with the world, and inspiring generations to dream beyond the confines of reality. And as they took their final breaths, surrounded by loved ones who had been touched by their story, they knew that their legacy would live on, forever echoing through the cosmos, a testament to the absurdities and wondrous silliness of the universe. As Gloop and Flibbergast's spirits ascended to the heavens, they found themselves standing at the gates of the whimsical Wanderers Waystation. The gate swung open, revealing a landscape unlike any they had ever seen before, towering jellybean trees with leaves of marshmallows, rivers that flowed with liquid laughter, and skies filled with dancing elephants. Welcome home, a voice boomed from behind them. They turned to see the whimsical wanderer himself, a being of pure light and absurdity. You have done well, my friends. You have brought laughter and inspiration to countless beings across the cosmos. Gloop and Flibbergast beamed with pride. They had finally reached their destination, the culmination of their lifelong quest. As they explored the way station, they encountered creatures that defied logic and reason, each more absurd and fascinating than the last. They danced with sentient rainbows, played chess with talking cacti, and shared stories with beings made entirely of stardust. You have shown us that there is beauty in absurdity, the whimsical wanderer said to them, his voice filled with emotion. And for that, you will be remembered forever. As they continued their explorations, Gloop and Flibbergast could feel a growing sense of peace wash over them. They had finally found a place where they belonged, a place where absurdity was embraced and celebrated. And as they danced beneath the stardust skies, surrounded by laughter and wonder, they knew that their adventures were far from over. For in the whimsical wanderer's way station, there would always be new mysteries to unravel, new absurdities to discover, and they were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out the wondrous silliness of the universe. And so, as Gloop and Flibbergast continued their journey through the cosmos, they left behind a legacy that would inspire generations to come, a testament to the absurdities and wonders of the universe, a reminder to embrace the silly, the nonsensical, and the profoundly irrational. And as they danced beneath the stardust skies, they knew that their story was far from over, for in the whimsical wanderer's way station, there was always something new to discover, some mystery to unravel, and they were destined to be its champions, forever seeking out the absurdities of the universe and reveling in the wondrous silliness of it all.